Hi, everybody. So I don't see a lot of cameras on. I wanted to start this off with a raise of hands, but I will just pretend that you guys are raising your hands, or for anyone who has their camera on, we'll do it. So, have you guys ever been to a social event and felt one of the following things? One, I feel like people here are judging me and disliking me, and I'm worried about what people are thinking about me around me. Let me get a raise of hands. Let me see. Have you ever felt that at like an event? Oh, it seems like nobody. Oh, one person. Okay. Oh, hands, hands. Okay, okay. Two, everybody here feels kind of like separate from me. They all seem to know each other in a way. And so I feel like an outsider, and that feels weird. Let me see. Okay, we got some hands. Well, I'm going to give you a key to minimizing those feelings towards the end of this talk. But first, let's jump into networking. According to the Harvard Business Review, many people find professional networking so distasteful that it makes them feel morally and physically dirty. I don't know if I would go that far, but I'm sure many of you have felt a sense of inauthenticity in social environments. I'm here to change your perspective so that throwing yourself into the world of strangers as often as possible is as exciting as possible. If you already feel like you love networking, there's still tons of value in this talk. I want you to understand that networking is simply the act of building relationships with people that you're aligned with, and there's a million ways to do that. From 2017 to 2020, I engaged in a form of super networking by creating tons of documentary videos and podcasts. Now, how on earth is making videos and podcasts a form of super networking? Well, I never intended to create all this content to build an audience necessarily. My goal was to use this content as a means of developing relationships with higher status people I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise, using this content as a door into the relationship. I did this by offering my content 100% free. This may seem weird since it takes so much time and effort, but it was definitely worth it. So for a quick tip, if you're early in your career, before you've made a name for yourself, be willing to go out of your way to do free work. The content meant I had something to bring to the table for anyone I want. I had leverage. I could literally just pick people out online, and after sending enough emails and DMs, enough people I thought were really interesting would say yes. And through the process of spending time with these people one-on-one, being curious about their story or interviewing them, it was often enough to build a genuine relationship. So I formed connections with technology founders, film producers, streamer, fashion designers, DJs, videographers, musicians, community organizers, and so many other people. And two guests that I brought onto my podcast ended up hiring me full time at different points when I needed it most. This is the art of networking. In many ways beyond content, I found ways to get in front of people and connect with people from every kind of industry and work. So here are my 8 tips for connecting with anyone. We'll start at the surface level and we'll get into the deeper stuff as we go along with this talk. So number 1, it's all a numbers game. Interact with as many people as you can, period. Make it a habit of finding new ways to constantly meet new people because you never know who might be of value. I'm convinced a lot of people I know miss out on awesome connections because they think going to random events is not worth their time or it feels weird. And I would highly advise against this because I formed way too many super valuable connections by going to random events, solo dolo, way too many. Number 2, get used to approaching strangers, build social momentum. If you're nervous about meeting strangers in general, build what I'd call social momentum. The more strangers you approach, the easier it will get to approach the strangers you're shy to interact with. So engage with random people everywhere, cashiers, the doorman, the bus driver. A simple have a good one or tell me a highlight of your day is all it takes. And these microtransactions will rub off on you in profound ways. 3, remember the web of networks. When you're connecting with someone, you're not just connecting with them as an individual, but you're potentially connecting with their own network. So people are going to judge you based on who you can possibly connect them to and if you're someone worth opening their network to. This is the web of networking at play. Always be on the path to becoming the kind of person the people you want to connect with will be excited about connecting with. 4, Mutual value overlap. Here's an example of what I mean by that. I used to work for a company called Midwest Immersive. We created tech installations for events. And a friend of mine, Kamisha Moxley at the time, 17, was hosting these 300 to 400 person full team professionally executed streetwear fashion shows. She was going to host a show soon. And I thought, what if I connected her with the founder of Midwest Immersive? Because I had this insight. When you connect people in a way that's not the norm, there's untapped value. What kind of technology startup founders are working with teenage streetwear fashion designers? I initiated this connection, and we ended up creating an experience to place posters all around the event that, when scanned on Snapchat, would bring up 3D renders and animations of items related to the theme of the event. We ended up winning one of the largest internet and social media awards, a Shorty Award, for best use of augmented reality for social good, as well as being featured in the American Marketing Association, among other things. We won this Shorty Award not because we developed some incredible technology. This was Snapchat's own AR technology. It was the nuance of this connection. Because again, what kind of 17-year-old streetwear fashion designer is partnering with a tech startup to use augmented reality and provide that experience for 300 plus Chicago teenagers? Mutual value overlap is the process of looking for where untapped value lies by connecting people in ways that are overlooked. 5, the value of your professional relationships having personal depth. You will get immeasurable amounts of value from your personal relationships that are also professional. Most of the relationships that I formed in career that have turned out in the best way started out professionally and became personal over time. You can learn to work with your friends as business partners, but I found that to be much more difficult. That's not to say your closest friends can't become some of your greatest career-related assets, but they're usually not something I would define as explicitly professional. Let me give you 3 examples. First, how my first business partner ever became one of my best friends. Gabe Tavis, my first ever business partner at 14 years old, who today is creating artificial wood using cellulose to combat deforestation at his company, Symmetry Wood. Our relationship and our friendship started based on working together. We bonded over day 1 of business club at our high school after realizing that everyone was more excited about business club being on their transcript for college than actually trying to build a business, which is what me and Gabe wanted to do. So we ditched business club on day 1 to start our own. Our friendship and business partnership immediately began. Because of this, we began working on all these ideas, and there was never any issue treating each other in a more accountable, professional manner. There was no distinction between leisure time and work with me and Gabe. We literally spent every moment together working or talking about our ideas. True nerds. I've always been a social nerd, let me tell you that. 2, how some of my closest friends became a career support network. Since 2015, I've been a part of a Chicago-based hip-hop collective called Exit the Premises, aka ETP. Although I don't actively rap these days, these guys are basically extended family, so they're never far away. And I actively collaborate with others in the underground music scene today. This collective was never anything formal beyond friends from every part of the city who came together to share resources, collaborate, and advocate for the success of each other's music. ETP makes songs together, we organize shows together, we went to South by Southwest together, getting each other's music videos, vlogs, photo shoots, etc. When I was in the hospital in 2020 for a week without my phone, 2 out of the 3 people who found out on their own what was going on and came to visit me were members of ETP. This didn't have to do with them being a part of the same collective. It's because we feel we're family. Especially in the creative arts, having a support network to help you create things where the others around you know that you will do the same for them is very valuable. 3, how my current boss became one of my best friends. The founder of the company I work for today is without a doubt one of my best friends. Akib Usman was hosting an event in 2017 when I approached him looking for a job at 17 years old. He thought like, haha, look at this kid, come back to me in a couple of days for an interview. I went on his website and it didn't make any sense to me. So I walked into his office and practically spent the whole interview asking him all the questions, trying to understand his business model instead of the other way around. Lucky for me, Akib found this intriguing. And so before I knew it, I was working for him. It started purely professional. Then slowly, after he could see how much interest I had in growing the business alongside him, his interest in me grew as well, which paved the way for us to become closer. We established comfort in the beginning, not just by enjoying each other's presence. That helped later, of course, but it was the comfort of trusting that I could do my job and was mutually excited about building the business alongside him. So he was willing to let his professional guard down. If you try to make your boss your friend before proving you can make stuff happen, it's not going to work. The relationship needs trust and a shared enthusiasm towards a common goal for the professional boundaries to loosen. When I reflect on it honestly, I don't have many super close relationships with people in my life at all who I don't have a working history with. So that being said, in the same way, your professional relationships can become more effective with a personal touch. You will become much closer with your friends who you are focused on growing with. 6, healthy exaggeration. And 6, I know I keep going back between these different numbers, but this is tip 6 of networking. When networking, it doesn't hurt to present yourself in an exaggerated way. There's a fine line though. You don't want to buy followers. You don't want to fake stuff. You don't want to lie when presenting yourself. Now, I'm going to give you guys an actual life hack if you happen to live in Chicago. The exact same thing I did to make myself more presentable through podcasts. There's a co-working space downtown called 1871. It has a 4-mic podcast room. Barely anyone uses this thing. Most hours of the day, it's always open. So go to 1871 and get their minimum membership nights and weekends for $175 a month, which may seem like a lot. And it was a lot for how much I was making at the time. But there's a hidden steal. Think about the presentability of this studio. It looks great. It's smack in the middle of downtown. Now think about how much it would cost to book an equivalent kind of studio. While writing the script for this talk, I did a quick Google search, book a podcast studio in Chicago. And the first search result was book by the episode, 1.5 hours for $250. This is why most people end up recording out of their house, but that's obviously not the same presentation value as a studio. You can book this studio for up to 2 hours a day every single day. That's around 60 hours of studio time at your disposal with a prime location and great equipment. Let's just say your studio booking cost is $50 an hour. With 60 hours, that's $3,000 of podcast studio time you're getting for $175 a month. This is not an ad. This was my thought process when I was debating in my head whether to get that 1871 membership when my budget was tight. Another thing, I would get less than 50 streams on average for my podcast, maybe more attention on social media, but my active listening audience was small. And yet I brought on people such as Daniel Poloski, the CEO of CoinFlip, which a few months ago was named the fastest growing company in Chicago by Cranes. I brought on Des Money, owner of Fat Tiger, a well-known Chicago streetwear brand. Caitlin McAllister, former executive director of Catapult, now COO of Workbox, 2 fantastic co-working spaces. Or Johnny Immerman, founder of Immerman Angels, a nonprofit for cancer fighters with millions in assets. All these people with less than 50 average plays for each episode. You don't need all the hallmarks of credibility to create something that looks credible. What did I have going for me? My ability to pitch my vision and actually creating interviews that you'd assume would have more plays. So if you're making something of quality, even if it doesn't have the clout, the right people will take notice, that's for sure. Don't discredit yourself. If you've done solid work, just learn how to communicate it in the right way. Tip 7, collaborative frame. Remember how I asked that question at the beginning of feeling like an outsider or being worried about judgment in social environments? Here's a key to overcome that. See others in a collaborative frame. See others as part of your team, even if there's no reason to do so. Be willing to include others wherever you go as a part of yourself, regardless of what they may be thinking about you. Because most of us enter public groups and events with a me versus them mindset, that we have to dominate the social environment or prove ourselves to people around us. With a collaborative frame, you'll rise above anyone trying to dominate the social setting. People will naturally feel this in your approach because you're unfazed with comparing yourself to others around you. In a collaborative frame, social anxiety fades and charisma naturally rises because you're just there to add good vibes. With a collaborative frame, you'll rise above the feeling of an outsider because suddenly the whole world is your tribe. A wise man once said, "You don't need morals for goodwill. You just need to exude goodwill." When it comes to judgment, everyone in the room is way too self-absorbed in their own thoughts to be thinking about you anyway. You go to an event, someone stares at you, thinks about you for a couple seconds, and goes immediately back to thinking about themselves. And you're the one lingering on what they possibly thought about you. This may seem cold, but it's liberating. People don't care about you. When you realize how little space people's thoughts about you are taking up in their mind, it makes sense not to care what they think. I would highly encourage wherever you go to not assume people are your enemies. Of course, this is harder if you've gone through traumatic situations where you were given a reason not to trust people, and that's very real for many. A drop of caution and awareness is always fit for any social situation. Certain social situations left me jaded and suspicious of a lot of people, but I always get the most out of life when I let go of the past and move back into this collaborative frame. Tip 8. Code switching, relating to everyone. How can you be relatable to everyone and still be authentic to yourself? Relatability and authenticity don't have much distinction in my mind. Being human together means that we can relate to everyone in some way. I normally bleed into every environment I go into. That's just the nature of who I am. I'm a social chameleon. I call this being myself, but it's often called code switching. People think if you act one way to someone and one way to another, it makes you unauthentic. And it can if you're doing it to gain approval rather than shifting yourself to relate to others in a genuine way. What is acting different anyway? What is the real you? Not to get too philosophical, but what does it really mean to, quote, be yourself, if not in comparison to others or the circumstances of your life up to this point? I want you to ponder on that. You act different with your parents, your friends, and your coworkers because you know what they'll be receptive to. It's okay to code switch, and you should do it if you want to build comfort with people. Just don't do it in a people-pleasing way where the other can sense you're switching up to gain approval or to manipulate them rather than to genuinely relate to them. People do appreciate when you adjust your behavior to meet them where they're at. Whether it's the party rockers, business people, intellectuals, hippies, people in the streets, tech nerds, people from any religion. I mean, I've prayed in mosques, Jewish temples, churches, Hindu temples. I became a Buddhist monk for a week and shaved my head just to see what it would be like. I feel like I can belong everywhere because there are universal anchors that let us connect with everyone. Quick fun fact for you all. Everyone on earth is actually your literal cousin. We all share the same ancestors at one point, and that's a fact. Referring to your second cousin means you have to go back 3 generations to find a common ancestor. You may only have a handful of first cousins, but you likely have tens of thousands of third and fourth cousins. According to writer Tim Urban, everyone in your specific ethnicity or heritage, you can link back to a 15th cousin. And everyone in the world is no more than your 50th cousin. So, all right now, cousins, stop thinking about some weird stuff. If that puts any weird thoughts in your mind, let's get back to code switching. I'd say code switching at its finest is language. Nelson Mandela said, if you talk to a man in his language, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. Put a little effort into speaking a few words to someone in their native language, and you'll watch their face light up. Language and dialect is one of the most basic ways humans have formed a sense of who's one of us and who's one of them over time. In Trevor Noah's autobiography, Born a Crime, he talks about how he grew up speaking both Zulu and Xhosa, 2 South African languages. When he was a kid, Trevor overheard someone speaking Zulu saying how he was going to rob him. And right before this dude was about to rob Trevor, he turned around and started speaking Zulu, and the guy was just shocked and said, "Oh, I didn't think you were one of us," and walked away. When it comes to networking, you want to think about the commonalities you can learn to share with people, and so that you can build comfort and rapport in a genuine way. Hopefully, you're actually enthusiastic about the things that make you different from other people. So for whoever you're trying to network with, spend time thinking about their world. Get curious about who they are. In other words, learn to speak their language. Thank you.